On the Transmigration of Souls by John Adams. John Adams was born in a relatively small town of Worcester, Massachusetts. He began composing at the age of 10 and first heard his work performed in his early teenage years. His primary instrument was the clarinet, and he sometimes freelanced with the Boston Symphony Orchestra. He attended Harvard University and studied with important American composition teachers like Roger Sessions, pictured here on the right next to Sir George Schulte, and Leon Kirchner, who also studied with Roger Sessions, as well as Arnold Schoenberg. Both Roger Sessions and Leon Kirchner won Pulitzer Prizes, Sessions in 1982 for his Concerto for Orchestra, and Kirchner in 1967 for his Quartet No. 3. Adams was the first student at Harvard to be allowed to submit a musical composition as a senior honors thesis. After he graduated, he moved to California, where he would teach at the San Francisco Conservatory of Music from 1972 until 1982. In 1978, he founded and directed the San Francisco Symphony Orchestra series New and Unusual Music, and was the orchestra's composer in residence from 1982 until 1985. From 2003 to 2007, he held the composer's chair at Carnegie Hall, where he founded the In Your Ear Festival. Later in his career, he worked with orchestras like Chicago Symphony Orchestra, the Cleveland Orchestra, and the London Symphony Orchestra, conducting music written by himself and by other contemporaries. In January of 2002, the New York Philharmonic commissioned a piece from John Adams to be premiered in commemoration of the attack on 9/11. It was premiered on September 19, 2002. It was composed for orchestra, chorus, children's choir, and pre-recorded tape. It is composed as a single movement and lasts approximately 25 minutes. About the title of the piece, Adams said, quote, "Transmigration means the movement of one place to another, or the transition from one state of being to another. But in this case, I meant it to imply the movement of the soul from one state to another. And I don't just mean the transition from living to dead, but also the change that takes place within the souls of those that stay behind, of those who suffer pain and loss, and then themselves come away from that experience." The text from the piece is derived from 3 sources: fragments from notices posted at the World Trade Center site by friends and relatives of those missing, interviews published in the New York Times, and randomly chosen names of victims. You can hear the names of the victims on the pre-recorded tape as it plays.
Christina Flannery, Lucy Fishman. Richard Fitzsimmons, Flora, Lucy Fishman. Christina Flannery. John Richard Fitzsimmons. John Richard Fitzsimmons. Christina Flannery. John Floyd, David Farrar. Joseph W. Flan, David Farrar. John. Joseph W. Flan.
Helen D. Cook.
Joseph W. Flan. John.
Helen D. Cook.
Christina Flannery. Joseph W. Flan.
Helen D. Cook.
Christina Flannery. Carl
Helen
Fittinger.
D. Cook.
Carl Fittinger. Eileen Fletcher. Carl Fittinger. Carl Fittinger. Eileen Fletcher. Carl Fittinger. Lucy Fishman.
Adams claimed to not want the commission, and briefly explained his conflicted thoughts in a 2008 interview.
It seems that this concert has dark overtones, but really, people, when it comes to it, it is a change in life. As Lyle Lovett likes to say, it's a fact of life no one cares to mention. But talk about putting together this program and bringing your Transmigration of Souls to Cincinnati for the first time is really exciting for us.
Well, I think the concert is actually a journey from darkness to light. It begins with a young man's rather glamorous and flamboyant description of death and the transfiguration of the soul. That young man being Richard Strauss, who wrote this piece when he was in his mid-20s or so, and it's an evocative piece. It's one of his extremely virtuoso, brilliant tone poems, like Ein Heldenleben and Zarathustra. I put it on the program largely to sort of be a counterpoise against my piece, which is called On the Transmigration of Souls. My piece, in a sense, is far less flamboyant. It's much darker and much more, in a sense, much more poignant. I was asked by the New York Philharmonic at the end of 2001 if I'd be willing to compose a work to commemorate the first anniversary of the World Trade Center attacks. That concert would be in September of 2002. And the original program that Lauren Mazel had designed had the Stravinsky Symphony of Psalms, followed by the Beethoven Ninth. And they said, well, we'll give you the forces of the Stravinsky Symphony of Psalms, chorus and orchestra. I didn't really want this commission. I felt that 9/11 had been so overexposed that the media had used it over and over and over. I think at first in genuine desire to report, and then I think it became a marketing issue after a while, and the country seemed to go into a sort of orgy of repeating these images. On the other hand, I felt that the New York Philharmonic, being in a certain sense our flagship orchestra, being in New York with its great history, asking me as an American composer to write something, this was not something I should just simply say no to. I needed to find a way to say yes. So I spent about 2 months surfing the internet, reading everything I could about not the political aspects of 9/11, but about the personal aspects. And I found all sorts of things. I found personal memories. I found certain sites on the internet where people could go and write a little memorial to someone who died. A friend of mine had been down at Ground Zero, and she'd taken photos of the little missing person signs that family members had put up surrounding the area where the buildings came down. And I found little phrases from those signs. Maybe it was just a description, black hair, brown eyes, 150 pounds, silver chain around his neck. We love you. Very touching things. Little verbal images that are like fractals. They're so small, and yet because we know what this is about, we immediately understand. And I put this all together in a kind of strange libretto and set it for children's voices, adult chorus, orchestra, huge orchestra, and a taped spoken soundtrack with city noises and sirens in the distance and people talking, which surrounds the audience.
Adams said, quote, "I want to avoid words like requiem or memorial when describing this piece because they too easily suggest conventions that this piece doesn't share. If pressed, I'd probably call the piece a memory space. It's a place where you can go and be alone with your thoughts and emotions. The link to a particular historical event, in this case 9/11, is there if you want to contemplate it. But I hope that the piece will summon human experience that goes beyond this particular event.